Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name is Sean Wasserkrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels, and we are finally back for part 2 of our MCU show. I know I said when we did the part 1, that we were like, we'll be back next week for part 2, and now it's like a month later. But the main goal was to get it out before Deadpool, and we are doing that.
No, you said it wrong. We purposely put it off for Deadpool week.
Don't be hasty. But anyway, we are here to discuss in the last episode, we went over our complete rankings of the movies. And then this episode, we're going to go over the ranking of the TV shows, live action only. So no What If, no X-Men 97, no I Am Groot. This is strictly the live action and the two specials. And then we're going to go over the state of the MCU so far, leading into Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes, we know that comes out next week, and so does Comic-Con. So a lot of the crap that we're talking about right now could either completely change or double down or completely make everything that we are saying right now pointless.
There could be things canceled, there can be things that are newly announced, and there could be changes that, hopefully for better. So we'll see.
We're only going off of what we know as of right now. We know we're 2 weeks out from...
This is the current state of the MCU.
We're about a week out from Comic-Con, so we could be having a whole other video by the time that ends. But we are starting here now. So we have 11 shows, 9 shows, 2 specials. And we're just going to kind of run through our personal rankings of them real quick here. We'll probably try to go through these a little faster than we did with the movies, just because TV shows, it's, episodic. It's kind of hard to narrow it all down. Plus, a lot of these, it's like, I'm trying to remember a lot of the main points.
That's the thing, is the movies, most of them I've watched multiple times.
Yeah.
TV shows, I don't think I've watched any one of these shows twice. I might have watched a scattered episode or something a second time, but
the only time I think I technically, if I want to go theoretical with this, I've watched each one twice because I usually always watch Us and then I watch Real Rejects react to it. So
there is that.
So kind of watched them twice.
But even that was so long ago.
Exactly. But I have not gone back and rewatched any recently. Everything was as the time they came out. But yeah, Brian, we go 11, 11, 10, 10, 9, 9, or do we want to go 5 at a time? Okay, what's your number 11 then?
At 11 in my bottom spot, I have Echo. Not, the worst TV show ever made or anything like that, but in terms of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was just the most pointless, and this is one I wasn't even excited about to start with. I mean, they introduced her character and people like, really, they're going to make a whole spin-off show on her? But I'm like, fine, we all trust Kevin Feige and stuff. Let's see what it is. They came out with it and we were still like, eh. And I mean, by the time it came out, they had trimmed it down from, I think it was supposed to be 8 episodes. They trimmed it down to 6 and they dumped it all at once, which, they don't normally do with these. So we're like, maybe that tells us something. And there's people on it I liked. There were things here and there I liked about it, but for the most part, I didn't care about this character. I didn't like any of the characters, and I was just fine if like the show never aired. So that's why it ended my bottom spot.
I think, and this is my number 9. So this is my number 9. So Brian's 11, my 9. The reason why I think mine's a little bit higher than Brian is obviously the big elephant in the room is Brian didn't watch nor care to watch any of the Netflix Marvel shows. So Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, The Defenders. He didn't watch any of those.
I watched Jessica Jones for season 1. I don't know if I watched 2. Anyway.
Season 1 was really the only one worth watching. But because of that, I had a higher excitement level because it had Daredevil in it. Granted, it was only for a scene. And, of course, we had Kingpin, which I love Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Now, unlike you, there were characters in this I did like. I enjoyed the lead in the movie in the show for what it was. It was just the story was just kind of there. And even at 6 episodes, I felt like we were dragging our feet at times.
Yeah, they definitely did not have enough for 6 episodes.
Exactly. This could have been done in 4 episodes.
And I remember having a very anticlimactic ending too. You're like,
it did. And I was going to touch on that. But the whole thing is, I feel like they were really trying to connect this with What If for that one episode with, I'm blanking on the character name. They really were trying to do some kind of connective tissue there, and it just didn't work for me. Now, could they continue with Echo and other installments? Sure, I'll check it out. I think for the most part now, we pretty much check out everything MCU, regardless of whether we want to see it or not. But yeah, you had this build up between her and Kingpin going to have this big battle, and it was just like, and I touch you, and then it's over. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, they built up this for 6 episodes, and that's what we got, and then it was like, and that's the show. And I was like, oh, fuck you. So yeah, all built up, nothing happened. If anything, it just made me more anxious and annoyed that Daredevil's not here yet.
And honestly, I don't think we'll see any more of Echo. I mean, if we see any more of the character, I think she'll pop up in like Daredevil or something like that.
If anything, she'll be supporting.
Kingpin is, but she won't have her own show anymore.
Or it'll be something like the Marvels, where Miss Marvel will show up and her family's there, whereas like she'll show up somewhere and her family or whoever is sprinkled in, but they're not the focal point. But yeah, my number 11 is something that I was actually pretty excited for, but then I watched it, I was just kind of like, eh. And that was Werewolf by Night. I was excited for this when it came out. I love Gael Garcia Bernal. I think he's a phenomenal actor. He was great in Cassandro last year, which is a Lucha Libre film. And I loved him in Mozart in the Jungle on Amazon Prime. For anyone who hasn't seen that, it's like 3-4 seasons. It's fucking amazing. But I was really excited with this and the black and white aesthetic. I thought it was going to be a really, really cool process. And I really didn't know where this was going to line up with the MCU. And it just felt very much like a one-off. And it wasn't a bad one-off by any means. Like, it wasn't awful by any means. I thought it was really well done. But by the time that it was over, I was just kind of like, if I had never seen this, I wouldn't have felt any different. So that's why it was my number 11.
Yeah, I had your 11 and my number 9. For many of the same reasons. It's like, I think they were smart to make this a one-off, because I think the only reason it ranks a little bit higher than a couple other shows for me is because it didn't drag out. Because I mean, imagine like I could have seen Echo having a little one-off, thing, but no, they tried to drag it into a 6-episode thing. My other one, I did not have enough below this, did not have enough to drag it out into a full series. Maybe they should have done a one-off of that character. So I think that the fact that they did this as a one-off is what saved it from being lower for me. But I agree. This is one that actually I liked. I did rewatch this one, and I think I liked it a little bit more the second time I watched it. But it still ranked pretty low for me because, like you said, the aesthetic looks nice. I think the black and white thing is cool. Got a lot of decent people in it, but at the end of the day, it's mostly kind of boring, honestly.
I almost wish this was. And I know you said one episode was fine. I almost wish this kind of would have been like one of those old school, like oh god, what did they used to call them when they were on TV, where it was like. It was Sunday night and Monday night. It was like a limited, like...
A miniseries?
What's that?
Like a miniseries?
Yeah, like a little miniseries. Like a 1 to 3 episode kind of thing. Because like they kept introducing like all these like monsters, and I was like really intrigued, but then they weren't in it long enough to really matter. And I would have been okay with it if it was like a, we're gonna drop an episode a night for 3 nights.
I will say that, I mean, this is kind of getting into our state of the MCU thing and looking at the future and stuff, but I think that when they first said to having Disney Plus, and they decided they're going to make these series, they're going to make this Wanda show, and they're going to make a Hawkeye show, and they're going to make this, and I was like, I think that they were intended to be essentially miniseries. Like, here's something. Hawkeye doesn't deserve an entire movie of his own, but we can do like on Disney Plus, do a short little series, a miniseries, kind of explore that character, kind of on a different medium. But everybody, I think, said, "Oh, these are MCU shows, the MCU series." And then I get mad when they're only 6 and 8 episodes long. And it's like, well, it's not supposed to be like a major series. It's supposed to be a miniseries. And so I think they get judged a little harshly based on that. But again, like we've seen, sometimes they can't even fill that. So who knows?
Well, that and people clamoring for like season 2 of everything.
Yeah, and most of these don't need a season 2.
No, I mean, there's some that I would be okay with seeing these characters come back and do more, because they might only get like 2-3 minutes tops in a movie. Mm-hmm. But they all don't need to have a season 1, season 2, season 3 kind of thing. Right. Some of them just need a special like this.
Right.
What was your number 10?
My number 10 had the lowest for a while, and then Echo came out, and this was Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel is a show that I decided just wasn't aimed for me. The first episode or two, I was actually okay. I love Iman Vellani, I believe is her name.
Yeah,
I love her energy. I love her personality. I think in the Marvel, she was one of the best things about the Marvel.
She absolutely was.
Because she has this peppy, like, fangirl energy. She's just happy to be there and to be a part of this, and so I love her personality. I love the character that she created here. The problem is that this movie went in so many directions, tried to start these subplots and things, and spent one whole episode like back in 1950s or what it was, and then it went and had all these other characters that we really didn't care about, and then also it was a little more immature than I think I was looking for. Which because I mean she is a high school student, but it seemed like it was very just the way it looked and the way they acted. Everything was like even just a look of her powers when she'd make like
it's like she's a high school student, but so was Peter Parker, and they made that work.
Right. And like I said, so I don't know if I would consider that bad so much as just not for me. It's almost like they were shooting this for a younger audience, but then they get into these heavy stories, like I said, like the flashback to the 1950s, where it's like, okay, but is it? Because now it seems like it's getting a little deep for that kind of audience. So at the end of the day, it was like, I didn't like this show. It's my second from the bottom show. I was just not interested in it. It feels like, it feels like a CW superhero show, honestly, is what I said at the time. But is what it is.
This was my number 8. So right around the same area. I feel like with this show, and I think you and I are both in the same boat, the first episode, we just weren't prepared for the and it was done. Wasn't the first episode done by the guys who did Bad Boys 3 and 4?
And Bilal, yep. Yeah. I think the first one, maybe the first 2, I think.
I don't think we were prepared for like the very comic booky, like in your face kind of. So it was like, okay, what the fuck is this? And her peppiness we weren't prepared for her peppy, I don't think, and we weren't prepared for her fangirling of Captain Marvel and stuff like that. And the cast around her, I think, was fine, but they weren't necessarily helping make her a likable character or a likable show by any means. Now, I will agree to this part. Yes, they did take that whole episode where they went back and I think it was a story about like her grandmother or great grandmother or something like that. And that whole story, I think we even messaged each other when it was on. I was like, oh my God, this fucking episode needs to end. And you're like, this is the one episode that actually feels like it has a fucking plot to it. And I was like,
I remember being interested in that story, but it's like, I know this story is not the story of the main story of the show. So it's like, it felt like it was like pointless.
It was like the one episode I couldn't stand was the one episode you were actually okay with. But it was one of those, I felt like with this show, it either wore me down or I got used to it, because by the time the last like 2-3 episodes of this, I actually was kind of into it. I wasn't like loving it, but I wasn't on like this hate train that everyone else was on. I was like, I guess I had finally gotten used to Amon, which, like I said, she was the absolute best part of the Marvels, and I can't wait to see her again. I love watching her on screen. She's this bright, shining star, and I would love to watch her interact with Groot or Rocket just to see her reactions to them. But it was more or less like her friends, her family. I think they all kind of gelled better after a few episodes. It was just a rough first half. And I think after they did the flashback episode, everything after that, I thought the finale actually worked real well. I liked how they integrated the school, and it was kind of almost like a Home Alone-esque kind of thing. And then, her having to kind of defend and save everybody from the government kind of thing. And it left, bits and pieces for a potential season 2, which we're never going to get. But I think by the end of it, and they had to do the lame thing where they had to drop the mutant line at the end and then they did like the kind of thing at the end. It was like, okay, don't do that, because she's not a mutant. It's a Bengal it's an alien Bengal that does this shit. Like, don't try to make this a mutant thing. But yeah, it wasn't our tempo. It wasn't what we were used to. But by the last 2-3 episodes, I was fully fine with it. But it didn't like make me love the series. It just made me like it more than Brian.
I also felt her powers were a little cartoony with the stretch.
Well, you got to remember they didn't want to do her comic book character powers because they just looked weird, like girl with giant feet and big hands. It's like, okay, wait, like that's gonna look weird. So they did this kind of, I don't even know how you want to call it, energy hands or energy da-da-da, which, like I said, at first was like, what the fuck is this? But I grew into it. I actually like to ask McTown how she used it to kind of like build stairs and climb. And when she finally kind of figured out how to use her powers, I was actually finally okay with the powers at that point. But yeah, they couldn't really use the real Miss Marvel stuff. Yeah. That stuff's so off-putting. Especially for you who attacks like, Reed Richards' stretch thing. Like how would you have handled a giant hand, giant feet character? Like you would have been all over that.
Yeah.
But my number 10, which I figured was going to be at the bottom there for you, and it might be your 9 or 8 or whatever. Secret Invasion.
That is my 8.
Yeah, we're right in the same wavelength, except for where was your?
I think we're gonna have it in tiers. I think towards the top we might stray a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Secret Invasion. I remember being like, okay, here we go. We got Nick Fury show. We've got oh God, not Mads Mikkelsen, Mendelsohn.
Ben Mendelsohn, yeah.
Ben, I want to say Scott. And I was like, that's not right. We got Ben Mendelsohn back, who I love that actor. I was kind of super intrigued where the story's going to go. Hey, this is going to lead into Secret Wars and all this kind of stuff. And oh, hey, Emilia Clarke. I love Game of Thrones. Daenerys. Hell yeah, let's bring her into this. My God, this show was boring as shit. It felt like it went nowhere. This was, to me, this was the Eternals of the MCU TV series. Just nothing worked for me. And the finale was a fucking train wreck. And the only reason why I don't have this one as my worst was because Werewolf by Night was just what it was. That's the only reason. Now, granted, I liked Werewolf by Night. I did not like Secret Invasion, but Secret Invasion was still Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn, who we only got for a little bit. I liked the actors in it. Even oh God, what's his name? Who was the main bad guy from Barbie? Kingsley Benadir. I liked him in this. Don Cheadle had a little bit more into this. Like, I liked everyone in this. It was just a plot and script that just fell flat for me. And that's why it was my number 10.
Yeah, I had it at 8. It's only above, Werewolf by Night because I kind of had a one-shot thing going on. But I didn't know a whole lot about the comics book. I knew that it involved like the Skrull.
Yeah.
Skrulls. Sorry, I kept saying
Skrull.
Kroll. That's all right. Skrulls. Sorry, I blinked out there.
You were getting there. That's why I was
how they've been like, living in, kind of on Earth for a while now, and they've been like taking the places, and they actually didn't take the places. Like in the comic books, it turns out that like, some of our major, like Captain America or somebody was a Skrull, things like that. And I'm like, they better not fuck with the MCU like that. Luckily, they didn't get too much into that. But first of all, you lose me in, was it the first episode? When you fucking kill off Maria Hill. I'm like,
yeah, it was
Kobe Smulders. You have Kobe Smulders, and I'm happy to see her finally back in the project again, and you kill her off. You've already pissed me off. So that's one.
Yeah, it was in the first or second episode, but yeah.
And they can bookend that with the end, where you take Emilia Clarke's character and decide that she gets to take on like all the powers of everybody because she injects all those things into her or whatever. And it's like, okay, now she's pretty much unbeatable, and like in theory she's out there in the MCU right now with all these powers, and I guarantee they'll never address that again. I'm sure they'll just be like, oh, they
much like the Eternals thing stuck in the water that's been in there for what, 8 years now, and no one's brought up.
Well, might be addressed in the new Captain America.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like it's just gonna be like, hey, it's there. See, it's still there, guys.
It's that art installation somebody put up overnight. Yeah, it's cool.
It's there. See, no one cares.
Okay, Nedry. But so I mean, you have that, and then the only thing that I think redeemed for me to some extent was Samuel L. Jackson is always fun to watch, but even they managed to make Nick Fury boring. I don't care about his home life really, and half the time they sidelined him through this movie so they could follow these other storylines and things like that, and it's like the only thing, like the two shows below it are because they had characters that I don't really care about. This one is a character who I do very much like, and they just made him boring, and they made the story boring, and I didn't care about the Skrulls. I kind of wish they just move on from that, and it feels like a wasted opportunity.
And you also had Olivia Colman, and you really did nothing with her either. It had a great cast, and did nothing with it. So that was our 8 through 11 without really trying. We went through our 8 through 11 easily there. So what was your 7 then?
My number 7, I have, you're going to disagree with me big time on this one, and that's Loki.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Because Loki is another one of those shows where, I really like the character of Loki, but I didn't care about where they went with them on the show. Well, part of that is because you know how I feel about the whole like multiverse and things like that. And this did a whole lot of that. I've been bringing in people from the multiverse, things like that. And I don't care about that whole story. I want the MCU to close the book on that and move on from that and just like never mention it again. The supporting cast, I didn't care so much about. I didn't like the female Loki. Owen Wilson was fine. You know, I didn't dislike him, but he did nothing special for me. You have Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who I really love, but I thought that she was kind of boring in the show. The one shining light of this is Ke Huy Quan, of course. I liked him when he joined on. But again, you know, it had more to do in this case with the plot and the corner of the MCU that they're going into that I was not interested.
This was my number 2. I fucking love Loki. I will admit it had speed bumps here and there, but I loved this. I could sit and watch Morbius and Loki talk for hours. I enjoyed every fucking scene with Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. I thought they were fantastic. Obviously, I know a lot of people aren't allowed to talk about Jonathan Majors, but Jonathan Majors was the performance that made us excited for this character. And even in season 2, when he was playing, oh god, I'm blanking on the other version of him. I was enjoying that performance. I thought that was a great performance. Ke Huy Quan was great in this. Miss Minutes, I thought was totally took a different turn in season 2, and I was there for it. This show to me was fun. Like I said, there are certain episodes that were a little off, like all the Lokis, like old Loki, alligator Loki, kid Loki, which was funny, but it was like, okay, cool. That could have been oh, he jumped in this world real quick. Here's all these other Lokis. Okay, and then back out. Like, I didn't want to spend a whole fucking episode with them. Like when it stuck with the core group, which was Morbius and Loki, Ke Huy Quan. I'm blanking on the character names because I was so thrown off that you weren't going to bring up Loki right now. Yeah, I was not prepared for Loki yet. Sylvie, I could take her or leave her, but I thought they did a decent job. But Ravonna was great. Gugu, I thought she was great in the show. Also, you know, like I said, shout out to Miss Minutes, Tara Strong, Miss Harley Quinn. I mean, there's a reason why I liked her so much. But yeah, I thought visually this show looked great, and that's the thing too, is that, like, season 2 for the most part was kind of like a bottle episode because the whole season was kind of stuck in this like little temperate moment. You know, we had great like Groundhog Day episodes where they just kept killing off Jonathan Majors like 18 times, which I thought was hilarious. I love this, and I loved where we got to the end point for Loki. We got Loki to an end spot. The first episode of the whole series, when he basically kind of had to sit there and watch what happened, because like I said, this is the New York Loki. This isn't the Loki that we all knew. This was New York Loki that escaped in Endgame, and he got to watch like in the future, like how things played out. And fucking Morbius kind of just sitting them down, going, "Look, fucker, this is what happened. So stop acting like you're all high and mighty, because this is where you're gonna fucking end up." And just the growth of Loki that we got through the whole series. I loved Loki so much. I thought visually it looked great. I thought acting wise it was great. Had the humor. I will say Loki or Tom Hiddleston got paid for each hair flip, and that's why he's so fucking rich, because he hair flips like a motherfucker. But yeah, Loki was easily my number 2. Now, if there was not a season 2, I would probably have it in the 4 or 5 range. But season 2, because of Ke Huy Quan and the rest, that bumped it up to 2 for me. So without everyone else's didn't have a season 2. Season 2 Loki helped bump that all the way up to the number 2 spot, because without it, it would be like 4 or 5.
Yeah, so tell me you're making a show about Loki, it probably would be easily top 5 for me. But again, it was just because the whole time variance and the multiverse and all that kind of stuff is just like, ugh. So that's what dragged it down.
But see, even then, it wasn't like it was, but it also didn't like. It was the main focus, but it wasn't like they were jumping around to like 18 different multiverses. They could have done that every episode where they jumped to a multiverse. They didn't do that, though. They kept it very much in the TVA, especially in season 2, except for that when they had to go to Sylvie's world, and then
but that's just it. The fact you have different worlds, you have these time variants, these different timelines and things like that. It's like, just stop.
But you already knew you were going to get that anyway, so it's like
I'd be happy about it.
All right.
What's your seven?
My number 7, once again, was the other holiday special, which was Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Like I said, I didn't hate it. Obviously, it's 7 out of 11 for me. I guess I just kind of wanted more from it than what we got. I wasn't, and I say this, and it's gonna sound negative, but I don't mean it in that way. I didn't want a holiday special completely surrounded by Mantis and wow, why am I blanking on Dave Bautista? Drax, thank you. I didn't want a whole holiday special around them. I wanted everybody to really be involved, which everyone technically was involved, but it was basically the Drax and Mantis show with Kevin Bacon. And I kind of wanted it to be a whole team holiday special instead of just tacking them on in the beginning and the end kind of thing. I also felt it was really short. I thought it was going to be, at least just as long as Werewolf by Night. Like I said, it was fine. It has its fun moments. It's got its emotional moments at the end, especially when Star-Lord finds out about Mantis. But it was just kind of like, all right. It was basically, it felt like a big teaser to Volume 3. Like, here's a taste till Volume 3 comes out. And that's why it was my 7.
Which I think it kind of was that.
It totally was.
I have that up at number 4, actually.
I wanted more Rocket. That's the bottom line. I wanted more Rocket, but I got that in Volume 3.
I think when I first heard the concept of them doing a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and James Gunn was like talking about how, like the Star Wars has their holiday special. I thought it was going to be more of like a comedy thing, almost like an imitation of that, but with Guardians of the Galaxy characters instead of Star Wars characters. And so I was really looking forward to this. This was not at all what I expected or wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But, I can see them focusing on kind of 2 side characters because it is just a one shot kind of like a little side thing. It's not like they took a whole movie and just focused on these 2 characters. And if they're going to pick 2, I mean, for to go pure comedy, I really like Drax and Mantis together. Mantis is maybe become one of my favorite characters in the Guardians of the Galaxy universe, like of all of them, even above Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon and things like that. I love the way that Palm plays Mantis, and I think that the relationship between her and Drax is probably the most fun relationship, the way they play off each other. So I really enjoy them. And then, of course, you bring in the Kevin Bacon of it all and things like that, and it is fun. It is short. I mean, it's only like 10 minutes shorter than Werewolf by Night, but it felt short. Like this one,
it felt very, very short.
We're watching it, and it was wrapping up, and I'm like, wait, aren't we only like 20 minutes in? Like, oh, no, it's been like 40 minutes. It just didn't feel like it, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
With Guardians, it's a bad thing because with Guardians, we want them to be around as long as possible.
Yeah. But I meant that it felt so short. Usually, if something you're enjoying something, it goes by fast. And if you're not enjoying it, it feels like longer. So I guess that means I enjoyed it. That's why I felt like it went by so fast. I would have liked it to be longer. But for what it was, I thought it was fun. Like I said, it's up at number 4, but that's only because most of my shows are not very highly ranked as far as the Marvel shows.
All right. What was your number 6?
My number 6 has to be coming up soon for you, and that is She-Hulk.
That is my number 6.
Okay.
I kept waiting for that to come, and he was like, "Wow, he actually has it a lot higher than I thought."
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about She-Hulk is, I love Tatiana Maslany
I agree.
as Jennifer Walters. I think she is great. I love her.
Perfect casting.
Even when she plays She-Hulk, I think she's great at her, although the CG still looks pretty crappy. It looks like Shrek half the time. But I think that she playing the character, even when she is She-Hulk, is great. I think that Daredevil was great on this. And the relationship between those 2, I love the relationship that they built with those 2. So hopefully, maybe she can show up, even just as Jennifer Walters, not even as She-Hulk. I'd love that. If she just showed up in Daredevil, that'd be awesome. But of course, it's dragged down by everything else about it. I mean, I was okay with it having a lighter, more comedic tone. I'm fine with them taking an MCU show and doing that. But I just remember every week watching it and being like, they just made so many stupid decisions and they made so many dumb jokes, and the plot lines were things that we didn't care where they went. And it's just one of those things where the show itself definitely disappointed me. And based on that, it would rate it lower, but mainly because of Tatiana and her character elevated it for me.
Yeah, this was the show where I felt like I was constantly at a battle with other people because they either loved it, and if you weren't 100% on their wavelength, then you were the
Because you're
worst fucking human being
sexist.
alive. Exactly. And if either or you hated it, and if you loved it, you were an MCU troll or not troll, but shill, and you just like anything MCU. And I was just like, I'm fine with it. I'm not blown away by it. Like I said, I love Tatiana. I thought the first 2 episodes actually were really well done. I liked her fourth wall breaking, and I liked her first episode or two with Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. I enjoyed all of that.
Mhm.
It was once she got back to the real world, and because like at first, like I thought, okay, cool, we're getting a kind of a procedural court comedy lawyer with She-Hulk with the occasional fighting. I thought, okay, cool, this has the ability to be pretty fun. And like I said, the cast, I like people in it. Jamel as Tatiana, I liked her. I liked her friend Ginger Gonzaga, who plays Nikki. Oh god, I'm blanking on. Is it Pug?
Pug, Josh Cigar.
Yeah, I love him in this. You know, we got Tim Roth back as Abomination. Like, there are things to love about this show. There really, really are. But every time you had something you loved, you had something you just fucking hated, like the twerking at the end. Which, yes, she's allowed to fucking twerk, guys. It's not the point. It's just like it felt very just thrown in. Just to throw, hey, let's get Mega T Stallion on the fucking show, and then we'll have them twerk to end the show. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
Well, that's the thing is, I felt like the tone of the show is at odds with itself, because if it was going to be, I like the fourth wall breaking. I wish they almost would have done more of that. But the thing is, there'd be times we'd way into the comedy, but then there's other times where it'd be like, trying to be a serious MCU show with what was going on. And it's like, they needed to either go all in one way or all in the other, because my favorite thing about it, like it was trending a lower score for me. The final episode where she actually, crawled out, and you thought your Disney Plus had paused, and she crawls out and she goes to see Kevin Feige, which turns out to be the robot with Kevin Feige's hat on. I loved that ending. I know a lot of people, it's very divisive. A lot of people hated it.
I love
that's what I wanted from the show.
I love the concept of it. So I was like, okay, I'm here for it. But then the longer it went, the more I'm going, we're going too far with this. Because now it's like, you can't have her in other things. Because it's like, well, she knows the script. Like, she knows.
That's what I was okay with this. That's why actually when it did try to tie in with the MCU, or even like when they brought in Daredevil, I'm like, see, because you can't. It's almost like if you tried to take like people say, oh, we want Deadpool in the MCU. It's like, no, you don't. I want Deadpool and Wolverine coming up to be like this, like he was in the Fox X-Men universe. He kind of exists outside of that universe. He's like in this meta commentary, playing with the toys kind of universe. And that's, if she's going to do fourth wall breaking, that's what she needs to be too. So she can have her in this show and have things like that, but it can't be actual MCU. And that's why they keep her that way and don't try to put her in future projects.
Yeah, like I said, if they do it like that, then I guess at the end of the day, I won't have a problem with it. But if all of a sudden, if she pops into like Secret Wars, and then all of a sudden we're in the middle of a big serious fucking fight, and then she goes, so guys, how do you think this is going so far? I think it's going great. And it's like, no, don't do that. Hey, that
you pissed off people before.
Oh my god, like, because that's my worry. Is that like, okay, we got it on the show. The last thing I need is like, we're about to get to the fucking Thanos fight in whatever Avengers game moving, and she goes, wow, guys, these portals pretty fucking insane, right? I gotta go fight. I'll be back though. This is great. And then go, no, don't do that. Don't fucking do that. And if she does do it, then fucking Deadpool needs to come going, stop fucking taking my shit. And just like shut that the fuck down. But it's like I said, the concept of it, like when she breaks into the MCU studios, I was like, okay. And as I'm watching, I was like, we're fine, but oh my god, I see everyone losing their fucking minds right now. And I'm like, okay, Kevin Feige's a robot. That's funny. And then when she sits there and starts questioning everything, I'm like, she's questioning everything that everyone's been questioning for a long. This is funny, but at the same time, you kind of just broke the universe at this point. Like, what the fuck's going on with Loki then? Like what it leaves everything kind of in this flux. Now, if she's like in a own little pocket world, then okay, fine. Let her be the sandcastle and play with all her toys. But it just left so much like wait, so what are we doing? And then they threw in like Hulk having a child at the very, very end.
Oh
Which
my
felt
god, I forgot
so
about
tacked on. So
Yeah.
tacked on. But
I
it's
think
like,
they
no, it's like
haven't neutered and ruined Hulk enough. Now they're gonna do that.
yes. But I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, I enjoyed a lot of this show. I think this show gets hated way too harshly. There are moments that deserve it, but like every twerk, there's the Daredevil episode. Everything about that episode I love. Not even just the Daredevil part, but like the frog guy and her having her issues with her tailor. Like that stuff
And the
was
best moment of
phenomenal.
the whole show is his walk of shame.
Yes, that was great. Same thing with her at the wedding with Jamel and them trying to like they have to be there, but they're fighting, but they can't. Like there are parts of the episode that are great, but there are other parts of it that's cringeworthy. There's just a lot of cringeworthy stuff. Then there's the episode where she's trying to just hook up and have sex because she's a girl, she's got needs. Like that episode worked, but then every time there's stuff like that, there's other episodes where I was like that and the character of John Bass, who plays Todd. I can't stand John Bass. And they just kept bringing him back. And it was when you kind of brought in the She-Hulk hater characters, the troll character, and then like they wanted her blood. That whole plot was the worst part of the show. Was that shit. Because then it's like, oh, I'm gonna take it. No, man, no. All that was bad. And then she even pauses it to call out that it's bad at the same time, which is like, don't double down saying your shit's bad when we know it's bad. Because then he's like, why are you intentionally making it bad then? Because you're intentionally making it bad. That's the part that makes no sense to me. Why make shitty writing? Why make a shitty show and then have your character call out that it's shitty? That's the problem that I had with it. But anyway, that was both our number 6. So I guess go ahead with your number. No, you sure to do your 5?
I've not done 5.
Okay, what's your 5?
My 4 was Guardians, but I haven't done my 5. My 5 is maybe the one I was most disappointed by, especially of the original bunch they were coming out with. It's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because it kind of had been marketed as like the buddy cop thing. Because we loved with the scenes with Sam and Bucky that we got in some of the other movies, and I thought they made great couple. As far as playing off each other, I'm like, oh, a buddy cop show with them, that'll be awesome. But that's not what we got. What we got was a show that was largely boring. And it, especially towards the end, became more and more about like, social justice. And, I think there was even like a big, like Sam Wilson speech, like 3-minute speech in the finale where it's like, okay, we get it, dude. We don't need civics lessons. And it was just like, I don't want, political social commentary. I just wanted to watch this to have fun, watch cool actions, laugh at some jokes. And that's not what I got. We got, U.S. agent with Wyatt Russell, who we like Wyatt Russell. He's kind of a Kmart Captain America, which I don't know. He's going to be in Thunderbolts, I believe. So, I mean, maybe they can better use him there. I think here, I mean, it wasn't the worst part of the show. He was fine in it.
I think he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, he played his role fine.
Yes.
I think what got me is more the fact that they took the fun out of Sam and Bucky. And just the tone of the show is what really dragged it down for me.
I think this is my number 3 because I actually really did like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But that's because I love Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan together, and they do have their fun moments in the show. So it's not like they're void of any fun in the show, but it is brought down by the super serum and hey, why were you so lucky when why is Cap leveled here? But like here's is it Isaac? He's kind of brushed off like that. Like you had all this stuff that you're talking about, which not that it needs to be, swept under the rug, but it overshadowed everything. And because you had this whole like super soldiers and becoming terrorists and all this kind of stuff. It's like, that's an interesting plot. Then you have to have basically Anthony Mackie kind of earn his wings and his shield with Falcon.
Which I still don't really like him as Captain America, but
you just have to accept it. It can't be Bucky.
You have to accept it. Yeah.
Bucky can't be Captain America. He's done too many bad things.
Well, I'd rather just not have one. I'd rather just continue to be Falcon and try to make him Captain America. But
yeah, but anyway. I mean, comic books, it is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this for what it was. I thought the action was good. I thought the acting was really good, which is why I think it bumps. It's at my 3 compared to others because I think it stayed steady for what it was doing. And while the social justice stuff rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, you included, I was just kind of like, based off of where we were at the time that this came out, I kind of felt like there was no way to avoid it.
I just
And
think a
so
little
we
of it could go a
basically-
long way, and they just leaned way into it. That's all.
I think for by the end of the episode, I felt like they did a good job of making Falcon earn his shield. I actually do like his new getup. I thought the new getup looked great. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I like the new Captain America look for Falcon. I'd hate it on Steve Rogers, but it works for Falcon. And Bucky's Bucky. I'm always gonna love watching Winter Soldier do his thing. And like I said, Wyatt Russell as Secret Agent or Kmart Captain America, I thought was great because that moment when he kills the dude, you're like, oh shit, like what the fuck are we gonna do now? There's just a lot that I liked about this, and I thought that a lot of people, I think, either had too much pressure on it that it just wasn't going to match because it is the first technically Captain America-esque show without Chris Evans, and then you had the social justice things that people just weren't willing to kind of just be open to it. And I was more open to it than others, which is why it was my number 3. My number 5, which is another one I think you and I were so high on, especially the first few episodes. But then for me, it just kind of kept going down as it went, and that was Moon Knight. I think you and I were both so excited for Moon Knight with Oscar Isaac, and this was kind of more, I don't want to say R-rated, but definitely a lot more kind of like, all right, we're doing some dark shit in here, and there's some murder happening in this. And then you add Ethan Hawke. I was really excited for this. I loved how it started, but I didn't love the end game for it. I felt the last 2 episodes kind of fell apart for me. I felt like I was losing interest as it was happening. I don't think I was really down for the kaiju battle in the final act of the whole big finale. I don't think it was really working for me total as a whole. I liked the ability of him not being able to control what was going on. But then they started adding the backstory, and it just really wasn't working for me overall. I thought Oscar Isaac was fucking amazing in this, and I'd be open to seeing Moon Knight, but it's not. At the end of it, I was just kind of like, it looked great, but I didn't love it.
Moon Knight for me was at my number 3, actually. I really enjoyed Moon Knight, and most of that is because of Oscar Isaac and the whole thing with like the the split personalities and how the voice would be talking to him, things like that. I thought that he played that thing perfectly, and I would like to see more of him in the MCU. I don't think we're in season 2 of that, but he's the kind of person who could show up in these big ensemble ones like Secret Wars, things like that. And I would love to see that because they kind of left it open for with the other personality coming in where it could go into another season, but I don't know if they will, especially now that they've kind of said they're going to kind of start separating the television and the movies where you don't have to follow them to follow the movies, because that's one of the things they realized they should not have done. But this is one I liked. I like the whole supporting cast in it. I don't think it's a perfect show in any means. Like I said, once you get into kaiju battles, things like that, it was like a little bit weird towards the end there, but it still ranked pretty highly for me because I just enjoyed the hell out of it.
What was your number 4?
My 4 was Guardians Holiday Special.
Okay. So my 4 was the one that started it all, WandaVision. I think this show was super unique in what it was set out to do. And I love it for that. Even if the first 3 episodes, you're like, what the fuck is going on? I see the joke. I think it's clever and funny how they're doing each season is like a decade of a show. But by the 4th or 5th episode, basically once I got to like the Malcolm in the Middle part of it, I was like, I'm kind of over this now. Elizabeth Olsen, fucking amazing. Paul Bettany, fucking amazing. Blanking on her, Catherine Hahn, amazing. Tiana Paris, great. This cast is stellar across the board outside of the kids, because the kids are cringeworthy bad, but you sometimes you just get unlucky with child actors. But I think this show visually is phenomenal. But then they start to get either a little too much into the TV aspect of it, and then you do things like Rick Boner. And I just remember everyone collectively lost their minds when Evan Peters showed up at the front door as Quicksilver. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is breaking my brain. This is fucking amazing. And then that's what they did with it. And I think that was kind of a huge, kind of a slap in the face to the fans for that. And it's like, when you guys were writing this, like, you guys, this was like a big troll joke that you guys wrote. Like, this will be hilarious. People are going to lose their mind. It's going to be, was it Rick Boner? What was his fucking name? Was it Dick Boner? It was something Boner. I just remember his last name was Boner, and I was like, fucking really?
Well, my thing is throughout the show, there's a whole lot of, like, as every episode went on, it was like more fan speculation. Like, oh, I think they're doing
Ralph
this over kindness. And I just feel like, while I do feel like it was kind of a troll, it's like it was put in as like a joke. It's like, I'm fine with it. I would rather have had them do that and have some people be pissed off than have them actually have Quicksilver and start mixing universes. That would have really pissed me off. The
problem was that you had to go for 4 episodes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is this show from the very beginning, because the first episode was just like that old, like whatever, I Love Lucy kind of black and white show. And then it went on, through the different, and it got to the point where you're like, where is this show going? Because because it was, doing a week to week thing, you're like, I don't know I
don't know how to react to this. I don't know how to feel.
And it wasn't until you got about halfway through, you start going, okay, now we're kind of getting into the plot. They were kind of setting up this world that she's stuck in or living in. And now we're seeing where it goes from here. And so, as long as you had the patience to make it that far, it's great. But a lot of people are like, what the fuck is going on these first couple episodes?
I think
by the time it hit its stride, though, and it got into the main story and everything, I really enjoyed where it went.
Oh, I did too. The ending is heartbreaking and phenomenal. I thought the final moments between Vision and Wanda still make me emotional. I think it was beautifully written. The very ending. This is one of the shows that I think landed the finale beautifully. From where we ended up, and then it leads into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because a lot of people are like, oh, it makes no sense from where she left. I go, it fucking totally makes sense of where she left off in WandaVision, especially if you watch the post-credit scene. It totally makes sense where she's at. But yeah, it was just, I didn't know how to feel about the show, on whether it was like, am I supposed to be taking this as like a week by week joke? But then once the cracks started to build and you started to see what was unfolding, I thought it was incredibly well done if you had the patience for it. I think what helped it have the patience for it is that it was only 30-minute episodes. If it was an hour-long episode each time and they were doing that whole thing the whole way through, I think you would have started to lose people. But yeah, for the first one of these MCU TV shows, I thought it did a great job, even if it took a little bit to get into it. But what was it for you? It was my number 4. You didn't say what it was for you.
That was my number 2.
That was your number 2.
Yeah, I think all I left is my number 1 at this point.
Which I think we both had the same number 1 then.
Which surprised the hell out of me, because I don't remember you liking the show as much as
Are you fucking kidding me? I fucking love this show.
All right.
Which leaves, it's Hawkeye. I fucking loved Hawkeye. I loved it so goddamn much. Jeremy Renner has always been shortchanged in all of these. I mean, he was the guy who was pointing an arrow at Thor, and Thor, we're like, who the fuck's that? And anyone goes, oh, that's Hawkeye. Okay. And it wasn't until Avengers that we probably go, oh, that's Hawkeye. But then I felt like he was just one of the most underutilized, but yet one of the best characters underneath every Avengers movie. Just not ever fully appreciated for what he did in Age of Ultron. I think he had some of the best lines in Age of Ultron, especially with Quicksilver, especially when he was always like, no one would know. No one would know. I fucking love that so goddamn much. Obviously, he wasn't in Infinity War at all, but Endgame had one of the most torturous and heartbreaking moments in that.
The opening,
Yes. And it's just, oh my God, Don't Give Me Hope when he's talking everything. He's so goddamn good and underappreciated. Jeremy Renner as a whole is how you and I feel about him, is the same way how we feel that people don't give Age of Ultron the respect it deserves as one of the better MCU films. Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye is fucking amazing. And when he finally got his own show, I was like, fuck yes. How do you make this show even more great? You give us Haley Steinfeld, who's one of my favorite actresses out there right now. I love her peppiness. I love her humor. I just love everything about her. And then you put her with Jeremy Renner as Kate Bishop. She's fucking amazing in this. Then you add Florence Pugh into it as well for like an episode or two. I was fucking all there for Yelena. I love this show so much. I love the finale when they're fighting on the ice rink and the big tree, the Rockefeller tree. I love this show so goddamn much. And this is the one that like, it makes me mad at myself that I haven't gone back and rewatched it because I enjoyed the fuck out of this show. I really, really did.
And this is one that a lot of people don't like. And I feel like
I don't get it.
I feel like we will get vindicated on this like we did with Avengers Age of Ultron. Because, first of all, this is what a Disney Plus show should have been.
Yes.
You take a character who probably can't support a full movie just on him, and you give
He
him...
supported fucking like 6 however many episodes. He did a great job supporting it.
You give him the side story, which doesn't have to be an ongoing thing. This is like a small story that basically is going to involve mainly him. Now you have set up Kate Bishop, so if you want to do future, you could have it be about her, and maybe he'd pop up in it, things like that. But this is really kind of his swan song, so to speak. And I think because he's basically out, and he gets pulled back in for this last thing, and it's a typical trope of movies and TV shows. But you get to have him be featured in it instead of just showing up in small bits and pieces like he does in the movies. You get to focus more on him. You get to kind of get the relationship even more between him and his family. You find out his wife was an agent, things like that. With Linda
Cardellini.
Cardellini, thank you.
Who we also love.
Yeah, you love her. Kate Bishop, like you said, we love Haley Steinfeld, also known as White Alexandra Shipp. Because they're the same person.
I think Haley was around earlier than this.
I know, but they're basically just alternate dimensions.
They are basically the same person, different color.
Yes, and we love them both.
Yes.
But she's a ton of fun, and she brings along Pizza Dog. We love Pizza Dog.
Pizza Dog's great.
This is a movie. This is a show that knew how to have fun. He's LARPing in the forest with the people.
So good.
That one's so much fun. You get to have things like I think they nicknamed it the Tracksuit Mafia.
Tracksuit Mafia. Yep. With thugs, Echo. With Echo.
And Echo is in here, and she was fine in here in the supporting role. I just don't think she could support her own show, but she was fine in this. But really, yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of this. I love the tone of this. I love the act in this. You got Rogers the Musical is featured in this,
which is cringy as hell, and
it's
supposed to be. But oh god, I was so not like it was funny the first time, and then every time after that, I'm like, oh my god, please stop. I can't take this anymore. Much like how Hawkeye felt when he had to listen to it. Yeah. Hawkeye is great. I don't understand the hate. I don't think it's hated. I just don't think it's very well favored. I don't understand why people didn't hate. And maybe it's because this was right up your and I's alley. This was very Shane Blackish. It was very Lethal Weapon to a point as well. It was right around Christmas time. Like this was the perfect MCU show.
It is, and like I said, this is the perfect MCU show. It's the perfect what a Disney Plus show should have been for MCU. It does kind of have that Shane Black feel. This tone wise is what I had hoped Falcon Winter Soldier would be. It's got action, it's got comedy, it's got its dramatic moments, but it's not about drama. So, yeah.
Oh, and Vera Farmiga, also,
yes.
She's great in almost everything as well. So that is our MCU TV show ranking, and now let's go into the state of the MCU so far, which I am not as, I guess, negative about it as Brian is. So, but I also understand and see things. I'm just a little more hopeful and optimistic, I guess. But
well, that's just it is. I think, and like you said, we've got Comic-Con coming up, and Marvel seems to be trying to right the ship. But
they have to because of the Jonathan Majors of it all. Everything kind of has to be refixed anyway now.
Right, but ever since basically Endgame, a lot of their projects have just kind of seem to be flailing.
I would say No Way Home.
Well, No Way Home. I'm saying
I would say No Way Home.
Kind of the end of that phase there, because after that you started giving solo movies for Black Widow, which is and these are a lot of these movies I enjoyed, but like Black Widow seemed like it was a movie too late. I mean, her character's dead. There's kind of no reason to tell this story, but it gives us Yelena, things like that. So and you also gave us Red Guardian and I forget Rachel Weisz's character, which we'll see all these people in Thunderbolts. So there are good things about these movies, but it just seems so disjointed. Whereas the MCU always had like this plan, like we're building towards this thing. And now like nobody knows what the MCU is doing, because you had Black Widow, you had Shang-Chi, they bring in that character, and we've not heard from him again yet. And it's been whatever, almost 5 years since then. You have the Eternals, which is, in my opinion, the worst MCU movie there is, because I just didn't care about the story and didn't like the tone of it. Multiverse of Madness, you know how I feel about multiverses. Thor: Love and Thunder was a lot of fun, but did it go a little too Taika Waititi? Yes, it did, and got a little silly parts. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, had good things about it, but the main crux of it was they made what's her name? Shuri. Sorry, I blanked out there.
Oh, I was like, I don't know where you're going with it.
They made her into Black Panther, which is the complete wrong choice. Quantumania, turned out to be kind of a flop. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I know you loved, wasn't for me, but that was kind of one of the few successes they have. Then Marvels, and so it's just like a lot of these solo movies that are off doing their own thing, which some of them are good, some of them not so good, but none of them seem to have any kind of cohesion. There's like no plan as to where the MCU is going, and it's definitely, they've been performing worse than they used to, and they've had more misses than they ever had before. And it's just the Marvel seems to be in this position where they kind of need to right the ship. They kind of need to restore confidence, because what used to be, every movie came out, you knew it was going to be a good movie. Now it's like, is it though? Am I going to like this one?
I think one of the main problems we're seeing, and you could chalk this up to also MCU's success up to this point, is if you go all the way back to phase 1, you started with Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. was kind of on the outs. This was his comeback. It was a huge success. Then we got an Incredible Hulk, which is its own thing. Then we got Iron Man. Then we got Hemsworth, unknown. Chris Evans as Captain America, he's a name, but not a big name. We started to see a plot point build, and then we had Avengers, which blew everyone out of the water. At that point, the expectations were built, and we had a through point through everything. We built all the way up, but the reason why, it was because it was new, it was exciting, and these actors, while names, weren't the same actors who were doing like 8 other projects at the exact same time. Robert Downey Jr. wasn't really doing Sherlock Holmes, I guess. Outside of that, he was fucking Iron Man, and Chris Hemsworth not really doing a whole lot else, and then Chris Evans do the occasional one-off rom-com or something here, but he was fucking Steve Rogers. And you had these people. Same thing with Tom Hiddleston. He was Loki. He wasn't really going and doing 18 other things. Now, because we've gotten to this point where the old guard is gone and we got this new guard in, a lot of these actors and actresses have like 8 other projects they have to do after they do one MCU movie. So we're not getting Iron Man and Iron Man 2 within a couple years from each other, Thor and Thor 2 right away, Captain America: Winter Soldier. We're getting these movies, but then they have like 4 other movies, lined up after like Shang-Chi, and it's like, well, it's going to be like 6 years before we get another Shang-Chi movie, because he's not available to do another Shang-Chi movie right away. Florence Pugh, it's going to take forever to do Thunderbolts with everyone. Well, because David Harbour's got 8 other things, Florence Pugh's got 8 other things, Sebastian Stan's got 8 other things, and it's because we've had to get bigger names to play these characters, and these bigger names have other jobs that they have to do. They can't focus like Robert Downey and Hemsworth and Evans had to do. And I mean, but that's why we're not getting as strong of a build, because it's like, well, where's this going? Well, the problem is that a lot of it was probably going this one way, but then it became reshoots and availability of having these big groups coming back together. Like, do we have any idea, if ever, are we going to get a third Doctor Strange film, especially how that ended? No, Benedict Cumberbatch is busy as fuck. Now you got Charlize Theron in it, and there's all these people that you need to do a third movie, but how long is it going to take to get all 3 of these back together again to do this? It could be another 6-7 years, and at that point, doesn't matter anymore. Far From Home, or No Way Home, was coming up on 3 years now. It doesn't look like we're going to get another Spider-Man movie for another 2-3 years on top of that. Why? Because Tom Holland and Zendaya are 2 of the top most wanted actors and actresses out there. It's going to be forever before we get them back together again, because they got too popular, because the MCU got too popular. And I think that's part of the big problem that we're running into right now, is that we're grabbing from everywhere, But the problem is everyone's grabbing from those same people as well, and it gets harder.
Because
and harder.
the MCU makes these people stars, and then they get more success. But then they're less available to the MCU. So you have the actors aren't as available, but you also have in terms of characters, because you have like, you know, Iron Man is dead and Captain America is retired and all these things. And, you know, so who are you replacing them with? I mean, Shang-Chi, not nearly as interesting as those characters, and these other characters. They've tried to come up with new characters.
The thing is that they could be interesting.
It's a lot of B-list characters, in my opinion, who don't really, and even like it's the question of who is in the Avengers now. We don't even know the status of the Avengers now. Supposedly they're kind of going to rebuild the Avengers, but it's like when they do reform the team, am I going to care as much about them? They've neutered They've neutered Hulk to made him so I don't even care about Hulk the way he is now. I don't like, you know, they killed Iron Man. Duty. I'm not as big a fan of Falcon as being the new Captain America, things like that. So you have that. And then in terms of the plots, you have so many different storylines. You have the Skrull thing going on. You have the Eternals and their thing that we're now, I guess, just ignoring. You have the multiverse. You still have the whole Hydra thing out there, because there's still people, you know, out there that pop up in different shows and things. And it's like there's so many different directions and no cohesion. And I don't know where they're going to go with it. I feel like Avengers would have been better off if it had ended with Endgame. Like that closed the book on the Avengers, and then they should have moved on to making X-Men their flagship franchise and kind of built something from there. And then maybe eventually they could do like a Secret Wars with X-Men and Avengers and everybody all together. But they want to keep stretching out Avengers, and so we're still waiting to see. Now we don't know exactly where they're going with all these things, but I just feel like they should have, instead of trying to like, Endgame was such a perfect conclusion that instead of trying to drag it on, they should have like said, okay, now let's move on to the next chapter. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, the problem is too, is that they've been talking Young Avengers forever. By the time they actually shoot Young Avengers, they're not young anymore.
Thing is, nobody officially has been talking about Young Avengers. It's like, that's people speculating. Ooh, they have all these young people now. They could make them the Young Avengers. Like, well, guess what? They're not going to, because none of them are young anymore.
Exactly. So, they weren't really that young to begin with.
They were young to start with, and especially
you had like 3 that were young, and the others were like they're in their 20s. They're basically
even Iman Vellani is like 22, 23 now. It's crazy.
Exactly. I mean, she might act like she's 16, but she's not. You know, same thing with Kate Bishop. She might act like she's 18, but she's like 27, 28 now. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's not. I don't feel like it's like they don't have a plan. It's just that the plans keep getting derailed because they can't shoot and building, you know, new heroes and popular heroes. If they had done Shang-Chi and then immediately had the sequel a year later, year and a half later, 2 years later, which would have been last year, I think Shang-Chi, honestly, Shang-Chi feels like 6 years ago. It was only 3. It hasn't even been 3 years yet. We're coming up on 3 years. So it hasn't even been that far back. It just feels like it's been that far back. Same thing with Eternals. Eternals turns 3 in November. It feels a long
the fact that it's not like being made. There's not even a script. There's not even a plan. That means it's at least another 2 years. So it will have been.
And that's the problem, is that there's no quickness to it. It's let's throw new person. And here's the problem: is that by the end of this, once Fantastic Four and X-Men show up, all these other characters, they don't feel as important.
And I'm okay with that, because that's just it. They've been throwing in new characters. And it's like they've had kind of too much going on. And like now they've said they're cutting back to, they only have like, was it like 2 movies a year at the most? And then like, you know, maybe once in a while, if there's something major, they could have a third one. But I'm glad they're going to kind of slow back down, kind of pull back instead of throwing stuff out there, because they are introducing too many characters. And that's what Disney Plus should be. If you want to have a Disney Plus show to bring in some kind of B-list character, great, do that. And then you have the character is in the universe, can show up in like a Secret Wars or something like that. But it's not somebody that's doing a whole movie and bringing so many new people in, because there just isn't room. Like, especially you said, once they bring in Fantastic Four and X-Men, there's not going to be room for all of these people.
Well, barring Comic-Con completely changing the whole schedule, we have just Deadpool and Wolverine this year, and then Agatha in September
18th, I believe it is.
Yeah. But then we have 4, as of right now, we have 4 movies scheduled for 2025. 4. We got Captain America: Brave New World, which I don't see that getting pushed back.
3 and an asterisk.
Yeah. We got Thunderbolts, which has finished. So now they just got to get that ready to go to put out. Fantastic Four is shooting.
It starts shooting the day after Comic-Con. Yes.
Yes, and then Blade, which Blade's not coming
Blade,
out.
which is not going to happen.
Blade's not coming out in 2025.
Blade's not coming out in 2025. I wonder if it's ever coming out, and if it does, I do not think it will have Mahershala Ali at this point, because it's just they've waited so long. He's gotten older, and it's hard to start off a franchise at his. I'm not saying he can't, because he's a good actor. He's a good guy.
He's not Wesley Snipes.
But I kind of feel like after this long, I kind of feel like he's like, just move on. Now, of course, they still don't have a director right now. There are rumors that Jordan Peele was going to jump on, which would really invigorate people's interest in the project. But again, that's nothing but rumors.
And nothing against Mahershala. I love him as an actor, but even I thought, I was like, that's kind of too old for a casting. If I was going to cast someone to be Blade, honestly, granted it's the DC of it all, but Yahya Abdul-Mateen, I think he'd be a great Blade. Granted, he's Black Manta, but guess what? That whole fucking DC's gone now, so you can cast him as it.
Yeah, there's any number of people that you could use to cast that. Exactly. So I don't think Blade's going to happen that year. I think it'll happen eventually. I don't know. But then after that, the only things planned beyond that that are definite are the new Avengers movies, which of course Avengers 6 is no longer King Dynasty, so we don't know what they're going with that. And
as of right now, Avengers 5 is just Avengers 5, and Avengers 6 is Secret Wars.
Right. Did I say 6 and 7? I meant 5 and 6. I was looking at the years 2026 and 2027.
Yeah.
So we don't know what. Hopefully, maybe this upcoming Comic-Con, they're going to kind of get a better idea. Like you said, even in the previous phases, you saw where it was going. It was building towards the Infinity Stones, the Infinity Gauntlet. You knew where this was going. Right now, there's no clue what this is building to, especially now with the King thing gone.
Yeah, the latest news that I've heard is that they're trying to get the Russo brothers back for the next two Avengers movie, which fucking good. I know their track record hasn't been stellar since Endgame, but that's because they don't have Kevin Feige there to go, this is the story, is what we're doing.
And honestly, I've enjoyed their stuff since Endgame, and a lot of people didn't, but I enjoyed like Gray Man and things like that.
Gray Man was fine. Cherry was fine. I don't see why everyone's hating on him so hardcore. But you know what? When it comes to an MCU movie, the Russo brothers are the best. The only person I trust with an MCU movie right now, 100%, is James Gunn. But he's too busy doing DC now. And honestly, if he knocks DC out of the park like he did, it's going to put more pressure on the MCU to figure their shit out, because DC is going to be coming back at it right away if it works out in James Gunn's favor, which if there's one person that I feel more confident in and getting the DCU under control, it's James Gunn. I really, really do. But yeah, the Russo brothers, hell yeah, bring their ass back.
Perfect choice. I would love to see them come back and do the next two movies. The only person I would like to see as much as the Russo, well, actually, I'd prefer them. They're the best. My next choice after them will never get hired, because my next choice after them would be to bring Joss Whedon back. But
Joss Whedon will never.
I'm not going to get into the whole cancel culture, but but yeah. So if that turns out to be true, then that gives me a lot. But that increases my hope for Avengers. But
exactly. And I know how you feel about Fantastic Four. I know you're not super gung-ho about it, and that's more special effects than anything else. But I think cast-wise, I think it's near perfect, especially now.
I don't love Vanessa Kirby, but I think she'll do fine in the role. I think for the character that she is, I think he'll be great for that. I don't know a lot about Evan Boss.
Watch The Bear, and you will feel
but I've heard from anyone who knows who he is, everyone says that he's great for it. And of course, we love
Joseph Quinn.
Especially
now after A Quiet Place came out.
Yeah.
But if you want to see two things he's in, one is an MCU show, because he was already in the MCU. Evan Moss. He was already in the MCU. He was in Punisher. He was like Punisher's best friend in the first two seasons. So technically, he's got to be. That's not the same person.
Well, we still know what they're doing with those Netflix shows.
Exactly. We know Punisher.
Are they not? Are they kind of sort of part of it?
Well, we know the Punisher, John Bernthal, is in Daredevil. We know that. So technically, he's in the structure of. He's basically playing a different character, same actor. But if you were to ever watch the Punisher series, he's great in that. And of course, the Bear. The Bear's probably the closest thing we're going to see to what he will probably be like in the Thing, but they're going to have to PG-13 him, because he's basically dropping F-bombs every 5 seconds on the Bear. But he's fucking amazing, and he just got nominated for an Emmy for the Bear. But yeah, with that cast, I think Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm I think she'll do good for what she is. I think we just haven't gotten enough of Vanessa Kirby. I thought she was one of the better parts of Napoleon last year.
You know what I loved her in was Hobbs and Shaw. So
Hobbs
it's
and
like
Shaw, she was fine in it. She was fine in Mission Impossible. So I think she's totally capable of it. Pedro Pascal can kind of play whatever the fuck he wants, and everyone's going to be fine with it. And like I said, Joseph Quinn, now that we've seen what he can do outside of Stranger Things, and we got fucking Gladiator 2 coming out later this year, and he looks like he's chewing the scenery in that one, and I'm all for it. So it's all great things for Fantastic Four. It's just, can they get the FX, the special effects down for Reed Richards, which is always your biggest concern.
Well, my biggest thing with all of them, but mostly for Reed Richards, is to make the powers like theirs not look silly, because the whole stretch thing, it's gonna look silly. So you got to find a way to make it not, to have a guy made of rock. But I mean, they can do that. I mean, they kind of done it with Korg, but obviously it's a different kind of version. I hope that it's more comic accurate in the way they make him look, because the previous versions have been pretty hideous when they tried that thing.
I didn't hate Michael Chiklis as Thing in the OG.
But it looked like, it just looked like a rubber suit on him. It just looked horrible.
Yeah, but it was also
his voice and personality was great. The look of it was horrible.
I don't think it was ever a casting problem with that Fantastic Four. It was more of a script.
Right. Except for the guy who played a Human Torch. He's not good for comic book films.
They would never be big.
That would never work. But Fantastic Four, I think they're very smartly taking it and making it a period piece set in the 60s, because of that, the Fantastic Four feels like a relic of the past. So it's like, if they can at least start them there, and then however they do it, if it's time travel or whatever, or multiverse, however they have to do it, and then bring them into this world, then maybe they can make that transition better, kind of like they did with Captain America, because he would have seemed very like gung-ho patriotism.
I mean, he still did, but it worked.
It did, but it was part of the story, was the fish out of water thing. They started him back here, then moved him into our world, and he kind of grew, and you got to become who he was. So I think that Fantastic Four is smart in the way they're approaching it, and I think that it could turn out to be very, very good. Now, looking at where they're going now.
Did they cast Dr. Doom yet? I can't remember.
Not that they've announced.
Okay. They might announce it at Comic-Con.
We don't even know for sure if Dr. Doom is in this movie. They might hold him off and use like Galactus or something else. I know there's a version of Silver Surfer, but not the same male Silver Surfer.
And that pissed everybody off.
But so I don't know if Galactus is part of this or not. But it seems to me, though, with the announced projects they have so far, it seems to me they do have more focus, because we're past the Shang-Chi's and the Eternals and all these other kind of this random characters are grasping at. And now, okay, we have, Fantastic Four, and moving towards Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars. And I kind of feel like we're finally going to get back on track. So while I do think that they've been a little bit of a mess and very hit and miss in how much I enjoyed their movies lately, I am more optimistic, honestly, for the next year or two.
Well, there is an untitled Shang-Chi sequel that is probably going to get announced at Comic-Con. And then there's also Armor Wars, which I'm not quite sure what to take out of Armor Wars. And we still got Ironheart as well.
Ironheart's been completed for 2 years, and then they decided to push that back. So I don't know if they're changing it up, or they just thought they had too much content out there, or what. But yeah, I don't know for sure where they're going with the series. Well, because Armor Wars was originally a series, and now I think it's a movie.
It is a movie now.
So that, and then of course we got Agatha coming up, like you said, on the TV front. Eyes of Wakanda, which is an animated series, is supposed to be. It's listed for this year, but I don't think it's coming out this year. I think it's next year. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, another animated series, and then of course Daredevil will be out in March of next year.
Yeah.
So
we got plenty of stuff coming in. I'm sure after next week we're gonna have a whole new. They're gonna pull up the big picture and it's like, here's the new landscape for the next 6 years, all the way to 2030. It's just do you think by Comic-Con that they're just going to call it Avengers 5 and 6? Or do you think they're going to give a new villain like Kang Dynasty kind of thing?
Well, I think Avengers, the only question...
You also think they're going to drop Secret Wars? Or is
here's the thing, Secret Wars is still going to be Secret Wars. The only question for me is if Avengers 4 becomes Secret Wars, like Secret Wars Part 1, and the other one becomes Secret Wars Part 2, or if they keep Secret Wars as the second movie and something else is in that first spot. Secret Wars is definitely happening. It's just a matter of if they make that span 2 movies or if it's just going to be one.
Well, Avengers 4 is Endgame, so it's 5 and 6.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant 5. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So but Secret Wars is definitely happening. The only question for me is if they make it, now that Kang's gone, if it becomes Secret Wars 1 and 2, or if they do something else with the first movie and then Secret Wars still.
So do you see X-Men being the next thing after Secret Wars?
I think once they get past Secret Wars, they're heading full into X-Men. I don't know if that will get announced yet. I think this is too early because they got too much other stuff they got to get right first. Because they have started looking at writers. They have started looking at writers. We might get a director announcement, things like that. We're not going to see like casting or anything.
No.
It's definitely not coming out. It's definitely not coming out before both of these Avengers movies. So we're still a couple of years out from getting an X-Men movie.
You think we're about 4 years out, 2028?
I think 2028 or even 2027, because like they could put out Avengers in May and then go into X-Men in like November or something like that if they wanted to.
We gotta get another Spider-Man here at some point.
But that's a Sony thing. Yes, Marvel's behind it, but it's Sony's releasing it, so it would be whenever they want to shove it in a schedule. And because now Spider-Man is been forgotten by everybody, he's kind of like the neighborhood Spider-Man again. They can kind of pop that in whenever, and it won't.
Well, yeah, but he's also supposed to be a freshman in college, and Tom Holland's getting older.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't have to intertwine or interfere anymore with the MCU.
No, I'm talking about more. I'm talking about more time for age. Yeah. Now, granted, Tom Holland could be 40 and probably still look the way he fucking looks, but
he probably could. But I do think
we got to get some age in here.
I do think they're going to lean straight into X-Men, either in 2027, 2028. So, and that has me excited, of course. But the question is, how are they going to wrap things up? And is Secret Wars going to be the thing that brings X-Men in? Maybe X-Men could show up in Secret Wars, because that's the whole thing. Is I think Secret Wars is going to be all about kind of finally closing the book on multiverse, things like that. I think that's how they're going to bring Fantastic Four into our world. It could be how they bring X-Men into our world, because they have to explain how mutants have existed all this time. Would they just stay in hiding all this time, or are they going to have to pull them in from another universe?
Well, I mean, if we're going off of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, they are in another world because Xavier was there.
Oh, so, well, and they also brought in Shitty Beast, and I just like to pretend multiverse doesn't exist.
Well, Shitty Beast was Marvel's, so I mean, they're there. They're just not in this world, and they're going to have to bring them over. So,
but I'm saying, is that though? Because they're not bringing in Patrick Stewart, they're not bringing in Kelsey Grammer. So, is it going to be that X-Men exist in every universe? That's their version of X-Men, and there are X-Men here, or is it going to be X-Men from some universe get pulled into ours? But I don't know. But I think that one of the Avengers movies is going to be how they make their appearance.
Or, which this could be another way to do it, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm just talking on top of the head. They keep Fantastic Four and X-Men in their own world. And they don't interact with the rest of the MCU. They're on Earth, blah, 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 and the MCU is in blah, 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 and they're just too congruent, kind of like DC and World of DC. They're on their own paths. They're not going to interject unless they do some kind of cross event like they did on the CW shows, but they're in their own universes.
I don't think they do, because the Fantastic Four takes place in like the 60s, and it's in like this weird fantastical, like futuristic 60s kind of thing. So I don't think they want to stay in that world. And plus, I think that Kevin Feige is all about, wanting to have like this combined universe. So I think that they will appear in whatever universe. I think that they will come over through Secret Wars or something else is how they'll all come together. And then from then on, I think the main focus will be on kind of X-Men and things like that. I think there will still be other movies, but I think the X-Men will be like the flagship franchise, like the Avengers has been so far.
Basically, you have it almost kind of like X-Men 97, where the X-Men are the focal point, and then, oh, here's Captain America over here. Oh, here's Hulk. But X-Men's the focal point.
Yeah.
That's how you want it. It's like X-Men 97.
I'd be okay with that.
I think you would. But you feel now, here's my question. When we initially were going to start shooting this, which was supposed to be back in like March. This is like 4 months. This is how long it's been since we were supposed to start shooting the show. Do you feel better now than you did back then, or do you feel about the same?
I feel better now because of the things that Marvel has said and done so far. They've said, we're going to try and focus more on quality instead of quantity, trying to pump out so many movies, which has been a problem with special effects and things like that too. By saying we're going to more separate the TV and the movies, so they aren't quite so intertwined. I like that. I like that move. The fact that they have overhauled, apparently almost completely refilmed Brave New World. The fact that they are supposedly now kind of courting the Russo brothers to come back into the Avengers. I think they've recognized we have not been up to the level we used to be up to, and we needed to readjust some things. And I think they're making those adjustments. And I think that Comic-Con, we're going to hear a lot about that and kind of how they're refocusing. And so I am more optimistic now.
Except for Blade, which just seems like a train wreck.
I have no problem. I'm not against Blade. I'd love to see a Blade movie.
I'm saying that's the only thing that doesn't feel like
it's just a cursed project that's never going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Blade just feels like the one thing they just can't nail down. I don't know why Blade is this big problem, but it just seems like nothing on Blade is working. And
when every time they say, okay, we finally have a director and everything, we're moving on. Like, oh wait, no, that director left. Oh, and that writer left. Oh, we're starting over from scratch. And it's like, okay.
Exactly. It's just like, what the fuck is going on with Blade? Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Not that I was ever in a like we're not about to shoot the death of the MCU like we did for Pixar, but I feel Marvel coming out and saying we're doing Comic-Con this year basically says, hey guys, we're good. Don't worry. If we weren't doing Comic-Con, maybe we are sure keeping quiet about things, but them going, guys, we're fucking coming out on Comic-Con and we're fucking telling you some shit, makes me go, okay, all right, you guys wouldn't be coming out unless you guys had some legitimate shit to tell us to get us amped up and excited. If you had nothing, you wouldn't have come out like you did last year or last 2 years they didn't do Comic-Con?
I know they didn't do it last year. I don't remember the year before that, or if they did, it was like a very limited thing. This one seems like they're coming back with like another like big presentation where they're going to kind of.
And so them saying we're coming back to me makes me feel okay. I think Feige has shit figured out. They just needed a year. Because granted, like I said, outside of the animated with What If and X-Men and everything, besides Echo, we've gone a little while without any MCU. And everyone, is clamoring for it and stuff like that. But you know what? Marvel's wasn't like it was supposed to be. So outside of the Marvels, X-Men, and What If, we haven't had anything since Guardians, which I know was only a year ago. But for MCU standards, that's a lot. That's a long time, and a lot of shit has happened. A lot of shit has changed since then. So I feel like, we just need to, and I know it's hard for everyone to understand, calm the fuck down. We got Deadpool and Wolverine coming, which everyone has been saying is fucking amazing. I don't think that's just people blowing smoke up our asses because they're being paid by Disney and Marvel. I think it's because it really is going to be fucking amazing because it's fucking Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. And I would be the saddest boy in the world if this movie fucking sucked. But you know what? It's not. Because I also have full faith in the director of Sean Levy because I love almost everything he does. And I love these two actors. And I could not be more excited for it to come out next week.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be great. I think that honestly, the trailers and things don't do a whole lot for me, but that's because it seems to be showing kind of the same 2 to 3 scenes. But from what Ryan Reynolds has said, it's like they had trouble, and the director, they had trouble putting together trailers because they don't want to spoil any surprises. So I think there's going to be
fine.
And just content wise, obviously they can't show in promos and things like that. So I think that it's going to be a ton of fun. I hope that it stays how I want it to stay with Deadpool, being this meta thing, and they don't try to bring Deadpool into the MCU proper, like some people seem to think they are. It's like, no, just let him make fun of the MCU, let him bring MCU characters into his movies, but he doesn't go into theirs because I don't want him to
have Deadpool be that cat that lives in the house that doesn't want to be around anybody, then just comes out of the room, fucks shit up in the living room, and then goes the fuck back off into the room to be left alone. Yeah. That's Deadpool. And the great thing about this whole marketing with Deadpool is they've been able to market things to get this people ready for this movie by just doing like commercials for ads like Heineken, or hey, Deadpool came out with his own Xbox, with a big butt for the controller. Hey, the popcorn bucket. We don't need to show you anything for the fucking movie. We're just gonna do like little vignette commercials for
They didn't
shit.
even need that. All they needed to me, all you ever needed for me was that first little thing where Ryan Reynolds was sitting there and goes, "Hey, Hugh, want to be in a Deadpool movie?" And it's like, "Yeah,
and then
sure."
and then
That's
sitting
all you
there
needed.
discussing
That
the
could have been like
movie.
the only thing they ever released, and I'd be there day one.
Oh, I know, but you know they got to still do things for the masses, and they're doing things like the Heineken commercial, and it's like that is all you need to do to pitch the movie. Is just these two are doing a commercial for Heineken because they're going to be doing the Deadpool movie. You want to go watch these two in an actual movie? Let's fucking go. I don't need to see
Yeah,
anything.
I'm
in the
afraid to
actual
watch
movie
all those
itself.
promos because I don't want to know anything more. So I haven't even watched a lot of those new promos.
It literally is them in the woods, and Wolverine's about to attack Deadpool, and he's like, "Hold on, I got something to make you feel better, big guy," and it's Heineken. And it's like, just for the days that your claws just don't want to work like they used to because you're old. And it's supposed to be like a dick joke. And that's all it is. It's a commercial for Heineken. It's something they shot outside of the movie. It's just them shooting it just to shoot it. And I've seen that stupid commercial like 800 times because it's always on
like sports, probably. I mean,
it is. It's always on sports. So I've seen that commercial like 1,000 times. But you know what? I don't know a single thing about the fucking movie outside of those 2 trailers that we watched that we're not watching anything else for. But you know what? Marketing wise, I see Wolverine and Deadpool at least 12 times a day, and it's never a trailer for the movie. It's commercials for other things with those 2 in it. And that is the best way they could have done it. They should have done that for fucking Endgame. You know, don't give us anything about the movie. Just put these people in commercials for, you know, cars and shit that had nothing to do with the fucking film, and just promote that as Endgame. You know, that would have been good. So that is our MCU show. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up in the Movie Crusaders. And of course, look to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we're gonna be back to do a review for Twisters. Brian has seen it. I have not yet, but as soon as I have, we will be back here to shoot that review. That might actually already be out before this one comes out because that one's gonna probably take less time to edit than this one. Also, we are going to be back for a Movie Crusaders chat about. There's been a lot of things we've watched in the last month that we just have not been able to shoot, either because Brian was on vacation, or Sean was on vacation, or Brian had no power, or a whole bunch of other slew of bullshit, or Sean shot review for 4 movies and then the audio was fucked up, hence the new mic. There's a bunch of stuff this past month that's kept us from shooting. So we're going to shoot an episode where we're going to talk about Long Legs,
catch-up
Acolyte, The Boys, all that kind of stuff. We're going to bring that stuff up. We're going to talk about all that. So that episode. And then, of course, like I said, next week, we got Deadpool and Wolverine. We will definitely be on together talking about that movie. And who knows, after Comic-Con, we might hop back on here again and talk about what the MCU landscape is after Comic-Con. So we got plenty of stuff coming. I swear, we are not quitting by any means, guys. We've just been busy. And acts of God keeping us from fucking being able to shoot for certain reasons. But we hope you guys enjoy this. We are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskrew. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.